Well, guys, despite all the chaos on the market trending down, there are some incredible opportunities out here that you guys have to be aware of. But there's also a lot of trash that Wall Street's pushing out there that you probably want nothing to do with. So let's talk about a stock today that has already made us a fortune on this channel right here, but they just made another announcement that might very well make us another fortune in the future. So let's talk about that today, right after you hit that like button if you like getting the truth without the hype. So, like usual, Wall Street has an opinion on this, and so far, I really can't disagree with the opportunity that is out there with this particular stock. I mean, I've loved this stock for a long time, well before 2022, whenever I told you to load up on this stock. Well before then, I love this company, I love this stock, but they recently made an announcement that Wall Street's kind of picking up on here, so let's talk about it. Let's see exactly what Wall Street's saying, and let's discuss what's real, what's not real with this opportunity here that could make us a lot of money in the future, and we'll talk about exactly why that is as well. And don't forget, our March Madness sale is live. It's the pinned comment down there. I'll tell you more about it at the end of the video here, but just make sure you take advantage of that. If you want to see a buys like we did in Meta back in 2022 and 2023, and actually I bought stock last year as well, down in the 400s or so, and a lot of other stocks like that, just check out the pinned comment.
Jeff Pierce joins us to continue the conversation on Meta. It kind of looks like we can talk about some tech strength here. Not yet for Meta, Jeff, but we're looking better. We're green after that little swoon. We're firming up. What's up with Meta's AI next step here? What are they doing?
Yeah, to your point, still seeing slightly negative on Meta this morning, but we have reports out of CNBC that Meta plans to launch its own standalone AI app in Q2 with hopes to really bolster their AI position by the end of 2025. The company is also said to be...
That right there is important right off the bat. By the end of 2025. So this isn't something they're working on in the future. This isn't something that is, maybe 2 years away, maybe 5 years away. This is something they're working on launching by the end of the year this year. And of course, that means, hopefully, we'll see what all said here, but that means that we could start seeing revenue as quickly as next year.
Testing a paid subscription service for their AI for a more powerful version of the software. Currently, Meta AI, of course, you can get it on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and they've got about 700 million monthly active users through those channels, which is almost a 50% rise from a few months ago. Now, of course, if we look at the history of it, we saw Meta, be released in September 2023. By April, it was on those apps. And the competitive nature here is that they're certainly wanting to compete with ChatGPT, one of the most downloaded AI applications out there. But of course, you've got Google, their Gemini, you've got BitDance, you've got Microsoft Copilot, all of those, in that competitive space for this AI investment. Now we know on the investment side of it, Meta's decided to spend about 60 to 65 billion in CapEx this year to support these AI efforts as well as the rest of their business. That's a huge increase from last year. About 39 billion was spent last year. Investors have shown some concern over that spending in AI across many of these names. However, it does seem to be paying off. We saw Meta at about 14% rise in their average price per ad in Q4 compared to just a 2% rise in Q4 of 2023. So we're seeing some pickup that seems to be related to these AI pushes out of the company.
Okay. So far, it's been in-app, their stuff, and so now it's going to be a different standalone product, and that's cool. I wonder how much it's going to look like just sort of the other LLM models and how much it's going to sync with their other platforms. I'm assuming it will. They've done a really good job about making everything basically seamless if you want it that way. Sometimes you maybe don't. You post something on, one app and then it gets to the other ones, but pulling out the AI separately as a product probably seems like a pretty good way to monetize it too.
So obviously you can tell the guy doesn't have a lot of experience with sort of stuff. Yes, you can choose to post across everything. You can choose to not post across everything. You got a lot of different optionality there. In regards to making it a standalone app, I think they're obviously trying to attack both, right? They're trying to make it obviously integrate with everything that they already have. It already is kind of there in a sense. And then obviously making it something standalone as well. The beauty of it being standalone is it allows you to offer more, something different, and compete in a different space than just simply the social media space. Again, just basically more avenues for potential revenue in the future. Now, you guys know if you've been following this channel for any length of time, since really since ChatGPT blew up and it was going to, in Google and everything else, all that other stuff like that, I've said from the start, I don't care about any of it. I don't care about ChatGPT, OpenAI, Gronk, none of it. I don't care until somebody figures out how to monetize it at scale. And more importantly, it doesn't become commoditized. Those are kind of two separate different things that may or may not happen. Whereas in the past, whenever I've looked at some of these LLMs and kind of thought, well, how do they monetize this? How exactly are they going to do this at a scale to where it matters to these massive, $1 trillion plus companies? Because the business model for this is very, very different than the business models for how they make their money, right? You think about anybody from Apple to Microsoft and how they make their money. It's not necessarily in the same exact way Google does, for example. That's why in a lot of ways, I won't say Google's is as good, but I'm more bullish in regards to them being able to monetize it more. The other incredible monetizer of all of their products, everything that they do, is Meta. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, he is an absolute genius at monetizing everything that they touch, and not just a little bit, and not just big top line numbers, but really the bottom line numbers. You're basically burning money. You're one for one in terms of dollar spend, and in regards to what it costs you to get that out there, in terms of massive margins. Nobody does it better than Google and Meta. Nobody, like no ballpark. You think through advertising, you think through a lot of other things of that nature, that they are by far and away the best. There's not they're 1 and 1A, and then second place is not even worth mentioning. That's how far and away that they are. So when I think about these products and I look at the opportunity there, and we'll talk more about the opportunity specific with Meta, but in regards to who do I trust to monetize this the best, right now, the people who have done it better than everybody else and nobody else can figure it out, to include my favorite Apple, gotta admit, they've not figured out how to monetize things like Google has and like Meta has at those scales. And so I think in regards to being a money printer in the future, it's going to be really, really hard to doubt that those are not going to print money to the bottom line, which of course is, to me, what matters. You can be the best out there, and if you're not putting money on the bottom line, it doesn't freaking matter. And I'm sorry, Microsoft, for as big as they are and as great as they are, Apple in my example, where I love them, I think they're a great company, I think they do a lot of things right. What they don't get right, and they've all tried, is advertising. It's all the other ways to monetize something like this, to make it make money. Now, sure, somebody like Apple or Microsoft can make it a service of some sort, but nobody's figured out that formula yet. That obviously is a much harder sell than people being able to use your app for free and then you being able to use monetization of ads and other things of that nature in order for you to make a lot of money on it. Obviously, print billions upon billions of dollars. So that right there is the big advantage I see with Meta jumping into this space versus some of the other players for now. Now, of course, lots to prove, but to discount them and not say, hey, this is a potential opportunity, and it's one that I can see their path to monetization in this opportunity is really, really, really large compared to a lot of other ones where I don't know where the monetization is going to come from. It's not nearly as clear as opposed to with Google, and obviously now with Meta, it's very clear where that monetization is going to come from. And that's important as an investor, not in terms of a user. Man, people can say, well, that sucks. Nobody wants to use it. I hear the same thing about Facebook all the time, but I'm like, I don't know. They got like 3 billion users. I don't know, 3 billion active users using the thing. Must not suck that bad. I don't think any other social media platform has anywhere close to that. So just some things to think about as you kind of hear this conversation start to kick up over the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, they have 3.3 billion users across their social networking apps per day. So they certainly have an audience there to be able to push this AI out to. Now, I think if we're separating to a standalone app, that could provide an additional audience, including businesses that could utilize this. But it also could have more functionality to it, be more specific to what they're trying to do right now. It's certainly, the apps are impressive. The AI that we see within Instagram and so on is extremely impressive, but it's largely utilized for things like creating images and other details. Also, it probably gives them the ability to not overload those applications with AI capabilities right off the bat. They could continue to test some of the AI within a standalone app and potentially have more features available there. So I think it makes sense. And certainly from a competitive standpoint, it's what their competition is doing. So they, it's a model that is working. So it makes sense that they would move this direction.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like it's been a big success, even compared to other AIs and other competing products. I mean, the stock speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I think another thing to keep about there, and I'm sorry, I should have stopped it a little bit earlier, was when you apply AI to what you do and it makes sense with what you do, kind of like what they're doing right now within their own apps, that to me is where the real power in AI is going to come. I know Microsoft's doing it right now, but I mean, can you imagine the power whenever it gets good enough to where, your spreadsheets and a lot of the other Microsoft Office type products, when AI is fully integrated to where, man, PowerPoints just, I won't say appear immediately, but, instead of you building this entire thing and taking all this time or downloading templates and doing all this other sort of stuff, a simple, basically a, chat GPT style input. And all of a sudden it gives you a lot of different options. And then you're kind of picking and choosing and refining from there. So being able to do that within your ecosystem, I can think through that with Apple. I can think through that with a lot of different products and a lot of different services out there. That to me is critical to a lot of the success there. So that's kind of step one. So I love the fact that they're doing that. Step two, obviously, is monetization, which of course it just gets enhanced. I've seen a lot of people balking at some of the enhancements that Microsoft Office and some of the Microsoft products have been pushing out over the past 6 months, where they're like, I really don't want that yet. It's not there yet. It's not good enough yet. But yet they're trying to monetize it and charge more, obviously, for that particular deal. We'll see how that works. That's obviously very different than obviously somebody like Meta, who's going to embed it in, we'll just use Facebook as an example there, as something you can use right there within Meta. And if they properly implement it to where it enhances the user experience, all that means is the user experience gets better, but there's not a charge associated with Facebook, if that makes sense. They can just charge more for advertising in those given scenarios, and probably, although it seems hard to believe, make their advertising even more effective for people who are buying for their advertising, which of course will lead to buying higher rates, people paying more for that advertising. So that model to me seems a little cleaner than some of the Microsoft ones, which I think will get there, and I think people will absolutely pay for that. In regards to that, it's just not quite there yet. I love that. I think Microsoft will get there one day to where that's absolutely just part of the Microsoft suite, and it makes it a better product, more user-friendly, all those other good things like that. That's one of the reasons why I use Apple, because I don't like Microsoft products. I don't find them as user-friendly as a lot of the things that Apple products can do. Obviously, it's debatable, just my opinion only. No data beyond my own opinion on that. But nonetheless, I think that right there is the future, and I think in terms of monetizing it, I personally feel like Meta has a huge leg up and a huge avenue to continue to increase that moving forward. Now, again, you guys like you guys know, I have said there's going to be multiple winners in the AI race, or AI race, excuse me, 15, 20, 25, maybe even more winners from this race. It's not this crazy, and I know people like to say it, oh, one company's going to rule AI and nobody else is. I'm like, that's just silly talk. That's never been true in the history of the world. Not one company rules the internet. When that, that sort of thing, there's not one company that rules anything of anything. Very, very rare that happens, especially in the tech space. Obviously, right now, NVIDIA has a massive lead in terms of GPUs and all that sort of stuff. We'll see how long it lasts, but it wasn't that way 4 years ago. And there's still competitors out there making very good chips that are very competitive, that do a lot of sort of things. They just don't have this super chip that NVIDIA has right now that all the big tech companies want. At some point in time, that dynamic will shift, and obviously it'll be a very, very different playing field at that stage. So I think there's going to be multiple winners, and of course, I like the way Meta's trying to do this so far, but there's going to be multiple winners, so they're not going to be the only winner. I just want to be very clear about that.
Still in the uptrend too, holding $650. Any word on whether or not what it's going to cost or how they might try and make some money off of it? Because it seems like right now it's just been an added product within all their other stuff. You haven't had to download anything or pay for anything.
Yeah, well, of course, the majority, almost all of Meta's revenue comes from ad spending, so that's certainly going to be the focus point. In terms of spending, we do know the company is in talks to reportedly build an AI data center campus that costs about $200 billion. That's certainly a part of this. It's just another sign of how eager they are to take market share in this AI space. And that is really, by the way, the spending part, I think, is going to be the reaction from investors that I'm going to be interested in seeing, because we know investors have been very concerned about balancing the future revenue growth of AI versus the massive spending we're seeing on infrastructure. We've seen some reports that investments overall from a lot of the big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta is expected to reach about $320 billion this year. Again, we're seeing some payoff in terms of for Meta in terms of that ad revenue, but the spending has been very high, and that's been more magnified as we saw DeepSeek release, because reportedly they were able to spend just about $5.5 million to train their V3 models compared to the hundreds of millions we've seen from companies like OpenAI. So I think that's going to be a focus point. But we know Meta in the past, first of all, they've done a lot in terms of efficiency and cost cutting. Second of all, they've shown before Zuckerberg's not afraid to spend money on projects that he thinks are going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, very true.
Yep. And keep in mind that he's in a unique position compared to a lot of other companies where He can burn, just like with the metaverse. He was burning billions, 15 billion a quarter, I believe was the number, billions in a quarter on that thing to go nowhere. And people, obviously the stock trade all the way down to $80 and people are freaking out. And I'm like, guys, all he's got to do is stop spending on that. And number one, they were already massively profitable to begin with. Even despite all that money being lit on fire, they were still massively profitable after all that. Their margins are incredible compared to almost everybody else. They're extremely profitable. They have extremely high margins despite high CapEx spend. So he has this unique ability to, kind of play a lot further and maybe burn a lot more money than a lot of other companies have the ability to do, to kind of see, can we figure out something? Can we make it a little bit better? Does that mean they're going to fail? Yeah, sometimes they are. It's just like we kind of saw with the metaverse. It's kind of a flop. Kind of didn't really go anywhere. But that's what you want your CEO to do when they have the ability to do that. And yes, we were hurt as investors in the short term. However, those of us that could read financials and read between the lines and not listen to the narrative, but actually get into the earnings calls and actually get into what's going on with the financials, saw massive opportunity, saw a PE in the eight, just one single digit, 8 at one point in time with that particular stock. Craziness, given how profitable they were despite the metaverse spend and everything else. And I knew it was just a matter of time before somebody on the board goes, hey, let's just stop spending on this and basically get back to profitability. And you saw how quickly that turnaround happened. So I don't think we see that style push again. I think he kind of learned his lesson from maybe getting too far in the weeds in regards to something that may not work as well as some other things. So I think he's going to be much more focused this time around. I believe that the spend, although it might very well be a little bit higher than everybody else, I think we'll get a higher yield on the back end in regards to that spend. So that to me is very, very important whenever we're talking about Meta and we're talking about Meta stock and exactly how we're going to be treated as shareholders. If Wall Street just decides all big tech spending too much money, we want to trade it down for a little bit. Okay, great. That means we're going to get a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great companies, not just Meta, a lot of great companies. But I also know on the back end, I'm not going to be fearful if we feel like the number is too large because it is so profitable in the first place. They have that margin. They have that ability to essentially light money on fire and still be fine 6 months later and still be, obviously like we're seeing right now, highly profitable and still having a low PE ratio despite, the stock price having run up, essentially 10x in a very, very short period of time. Hey, still pretty cheap from a valuation perspective as well. That's how much money they are able to print on the back end there. So I'm not worried about the AI spend at all. And if we do get that sort of a narrative that kind of runs as we get closer to the summertime, whatever the case is, hey, great, it's going to be opportunity. And again, I know and I trust Zuck to either cut off a project that's not profitable eventually or do what he usually does. And that is he's able to pivot the business and make a lot of money. And there's some other points I'm going to touch on here in just a second, but we'll let this finish out and then we'll touch on those final points to where I think we have a cushion, an even larger cushion that nobody ever talks about really. So we'll talk about that here in just a second.
And sometimes to their detriment, sometimes to their benefit. In this case, definitely to the benefit. Thanks, Jeff. Good perspective. Let's trade it, Dan.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop the video right there. Now, in regards to this final point that a lot of folks don't think about in regards to Meta. So when you think about companies and you think about, and I'm talking big tech here specifically, because that's kind of the world that they play in. All those companies are all maximizing their profits. They are all doing everything that they can right now. They've monetized everything that they can monetize. That's mature. Obviously, they have some things in development that they can't monetize yet, or that they don't want to turn on the monetization yet. But all of their mature products are absolutely monetized. That is not the case with Meta. Meta has not really monetized WhatsApp yet. And I know those of us here in the US, we're kind of like, WhatsApp, what's the big deal? Who freaking cares? Nobody uses that. Nobody except for the whole rest of the world, guys. I'm sorry. The rest of the world uses that for things like medical information being passed back and forth between your doctor. That's how people communicate instead of text messaging and a lot of other things that we do here stateside. It's completely different in the rest of the world. I mean, it doesn't matter whether I go down to South America, whether I go to Europe, whether I go to Asia, and I understand there's a few there in Asia that get used, but WhatsApp is far more common than, hey, give me your phone number or give me your handle on this or that or whatever the case is in order to communicate. It's, hey, what's your WhatsApp? It's amazing how that's everywhere. To getting a table at a restaurant, being told, hey, your time is ready, your table's ready. It comes through WhatsApp. It is incredible how integrated it is in the rest of society. And Mark Zuckerberg has not really monetized that yet. That is a massive lever that they have yet to pull the lever on to start printing cash upon cash upon cash, and that will come. So if he chooses to spend more money, he has a way to offset that over here with that profit lever, and everybody always forgets about that. That's why I'm so bullish on it long term. They're not monetizing it, but yet it continues to print cash quarter in and quarter out. That's why I couldn't emphasize enough not to buy. You couldn't buy enough back when it was so cheap. You just couldn't. I didn't care. I didn't care that I was down on the short term. I didn't care that, oh, Luke, you're an idiot. You said buy it at 150. You're so dumb. Now it's down under 100. Facts are facts. Valuation's valuation. And that is the type company that it is. I don't like Zuck either. I'm just like you guys. He annoys me at times. But nonetheless, in terms of a business, this is exactly how you run it. And this is how you make strides. And this to me is exciting as another monetization lever that they can pull over here relatively easily and make a lot of money because they have billions upon billions of users. And you're right. I don't think 3 billion are going to use it. And anybody out there projecting that sort of crap or half of that, I think it'll be a billion. But if 100 million people use it, and are willing to either pay a subscription or they monetize it with ads, that is a lot more money to the bottom line for what's going to end up being over the long run, something that just makes all their products better and allows them to charge more money on the advertising side in the end. So yes, I think Meta is a great stock to DCA into or to start a position in. I've been saying that from the start. I buy it periodically at times. We were able to buy that stock last year in the 400s. I know I did. I know a lot of you guys did as well. So again, opportunity. Where are we at today? I don't know. What is it at? Looks like, it looks like we're at $660 now, and that's after falling off that high of over 700. So again, it's a great stock. You've had opportunities in this stock, and look at that. That's, pretty darn good return there over the past year, simply in buys and Meta, and a very, very mature company that just continues to print profits. And no, I would not be surprised at all once this whole AI thing rolls out and everything they decide to monetize it and they get rolling. If this is stock's well over $1,000, would not surprise me at all. And remember, guys, if you want to take advantage of that March Madness sale where you get 5 courses for free, you get free coaching, you get direct access to me anytime you want, be a part of the best 6, 7, 8-figure Discord out there. Guys, there's so much involved. Just check out the pinned comments, see if a membership's right for you, and take advantage of that sale before it ends. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.